Welcome to another Howls and Growls breakdown, and today we're talking about the best defensive quarter I have ever witnessed. The Minnesota Timberwolves have been the best defensive team on the planet for the entire season, but in the second quarter of Game 2 against Denver, they ramped their levels up into another stratosphere, and I've never seen anything like it, especially in a playoff game of that magnitude. So let's just run through this film and break this down, because this was a straitjacket job by the Wolves. Now, this first possession isn't the tip of the iceberg compared to what we will see later in this quarter, but it does encompass a lot of what the Wolves are doing. So it's Alexander Walker getting over screens like this, but then still having Conley there to switch it, while he gives time for the defense to veer back into coverage, and Reed can take over as gap helper on the other side. Then when Murray is forced to pass, McDaniels is sprinting from rim helper to the corner to smother that shot. Every cog in that machine is operating smoothly. I've called their defense a living organism before, but at the moment it's a high-powered buzzsaw. Here they could probably stick with Alexander Walker fighting through after blowing up this handoff action, but they trust Naz Reid to switch onto Murray, they trust him to move his feet, and they trust him to impact that shot at the rim. Reid was awesome in this game, and that trust that they have in him was crucial, but when you have Alexander Walker and Jaden McDaniels working in tandem, that's when things start to get really nasty. Pickup point starts at 94 feet here, and with Jackson down, McDaniels can join the hunt. With their ability to slide laterally, flip their hips, and use their length to strangle ball handlers, you get possessions that look like this. It's two pit bulls tearing apart a carcass. And even when Murray squirts the ball out of that feasting, there's still work to be done. McDaniels needs to get out of the tangle and get back in front of Jackson, and when the ball comes back to Murray and he's getting into an isolation look against Alexander Walker, look at how Towns pushes McDaniels back up into that gap help so that he's there to show a body to Murray when he comes off the ball screen. And when Murray does find an outlet, Conley is coming off his man into a picture-perfect closeout in the corner to force a bad shot and force a turnover. That'll be remembered as one of the great defensive possessions we will ever see. Again, it's those two hellhounds, Alexander Walker and McDaniels, in conjunction again here. The former is shadowing the big frame of Aaron Gordon, and when he gets a sliver of space, McDaniels is coming over from the weak side to make sure that that look at the rim is a tough one. It's just so valuable for Minnesota to have two lanky perimeter defenders that not only enhance each other, but help each other as well. You see here Alexander Walker and Reid both veer back to Jokic's role, but McDaniels is there to dig down and get a hand up on that shot that was about to be an open one. When the offensive rebound comes down, Reid is back there to block that shot away, and then it's all hands to the pump to force it away from the rim. When it eventually comes out of the scrum and Denver still have the ball, it's another effort from Naz Reid. He switches off the ball screen to jump out and put the shackles on Murray again. And this is all happening within minutes of the quarter starting. In fact, up to this point, Denver haven't actually scored a single point in the quarter yet. And even when they do scrounge a few buckets, Minnesota are right back to it. It's another switch here from Reid. That means Denver try to get into this empty corner two-man game, and not only does Reid get through this handoff, he actually blocks the shot. And when Conley comes off Brown and he slices in behind him, it's those two again. Alexander Walker shuffles over in low man help, McDaniels swoops in from the perimeter, and eventually the Nuggets somehow score, but you can see how hard they have to work for it. And on this next possession we get to see some game plan stuff, along with just that intensity and the effort. So when Denver run their off-ball action to get into this pick and roll, watch how Anderson gets back to Jokic right away to cut off the pocket pass, while McDaniels slides over to become the helper on the driving ball handler, and Edwards slides in to cover Gordon for McDaniels, before sprinting back out to the corner to prevent the three, and Towns does the same on that extra pass, and eventually the Nuggets turn it over after the flow of this possession gets completely ruined by Minnesota's defense. And you can see what those live ball turnovers lead to, easy looks in transition that really felt like daggers even this early in the game. Again, Kyle Anderson gets through this action to stay on the ball, Reed gets through the action to stay on Jokic, they force the ball away from that Jokic post-up, and then the backline help is always there and always on point. This time it's Edwards affecting the shot, then he's off to the races to push the ball down the throat of Denver's lazy transition defense. And look at the difference. When Denver try to push the pace themselves off that make, Edwards is already sprinting back to get into here as a helper, and Anderson is sliding over as well. Then it's scramble mode. McDaniel scrambles to the corner to prevent a three, Edwards scrambles to the slot to prevent the pass, Alexander Walker steps up on the baseline to make sure Gordon doesn't have a lane, and then Reed is scrambling to the corner to contest the eventual jumper. So if there was one play in this series that demonstrated the difference between the two defenses out there on the court, it would be those two back-to-back possessions. On this next possession, we get back into those half-court game plan buttons being pushed. When they try to get this really high guard-guard screen to force a switch, Conley just hedges up, allows Alexander Walker to recover, and then recovers back to his man to maintain that matchup. And when they go to the Jokic screen, it's Reed committing to the pocket pass again, and this time he comes away with the steal for good measure. And once again, I think it's important to remind everybody that this was just in the second quarter of this game. This wasn't even every possession either. Minnesota swarmed Denver for the entire quarter and really swarmed them for the entire game. They've been winning games with defense all season long, and those who have been watching Minnesota certainly knew they could do this, but it's an entirely different thing watching them do it and watching this unfold on a huge stage against the reigning champions. There's still 2 more games to win for Minnesota in this series, and I'm certain that Denver are going to punch back at some stage, but if they can keep this up, they might just shock the world in the coming weeks. So thanks again for watching Howls and Growls. I really appreciate the support, especially in this playoff run. We're getting a lot of numbers on the videos and a lot of new subscribers. So please subscribe if you don't already, and thanks again for watching.